Well, guys, here's the patient, the stubborn patient, and so I got it in my back up on the stand here. I got a couple ideas, a couple things I want to try on it. But first I want to go through, look it over again and see if anything's changed, check the scope mount, that sort of thing. Check the neutrality of the barrel in the channel again. And so as we used to do back in the old days when I did a lot of drag racing, when you get out in the weeds, you kind of just basically need to go back to the basics and go back to square one. So I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go back, look things over, go back to square one, go back to the basics, and rehash this thing out and see what I can come up with. So at any rate, guys, as I progress through this thing, I think I'll try to keep you all okay. As you can see, I took the scope off of it, which is no big deal. If you look at the scope, it's just got two fasteners, easy peasy to put on and off, and I don't think it'll really, probably shouldn't change the 0 point a whole lot, so no big deal. So I took the scope off because I wanted to revisit the scope mount again. And so what I did is I checked this tightness again to see if it was, and it was still tight. But I still had some concerns about how this whole thing fits on the top of the receiver here, because that Swiss crest on the top of the receiver, if you were to check it, because of the nature of it being imprinted, I believe, on the receiver, it has slight edges around that crest. And obviously I'm not going to take and file down or sand down the receiver to remove those, so I got to figure out a way around it. And previously what I did is, from the contact points on it, I could tell that it was making contact with those raised edges, and I kind of relieved the center of the radius on the underside of this thing, so that it would kind of not come in contact that, and hopefully just come up with more contact along the sides here. And if you watch my other video that when I shot this thing, one of my previous videos, I had a brass shim I made to put between the receiver and the mount, in order to kind of that soft metal to kind of conform to the ridges on that crest, that sort of thing. So what I did this time is I loosened it up again, and what I did is in the process of this, I used my mallet. To kind of tap on it enough to hopefully seat the radius of the mount to the receiver more, and because this is aluminum and the receiver is hardened steel. And then I put that brass shim back underneath there. I want to see if that it seemed to work on the video that I had, where I had a brass shim under there. The rifle shot very well at that point. So that's what I did. I revisited the whole mount thing again. I re-Loctited it, put it all back down. So we're gonna just kind of double check that and make sure. I wanted to make sure that was to my liking, so to speak. So at any rate, that's what I did with that. Now, in regard to the handguard, it's obvious the way these things are built that they do not want the barrel to interact with the wood, except here where it's held tight here. As you can see, there'll be a bearing surface on the bottom side of the stock that is supposed to, so they're holding the barrel here. And then when you get down to it, the receiver itself is even basically free floated in the stock, unlike, say, 1903, where these wings on the side of the receiver contact the stock. Really, the only places that this receiver contacts the stock will be where the tang comes and goes down here. The back side of that trigger housing is your recoil lug, and along the top edge, the underside of this tang. And then on the bottom side of the front lug, in that cutout in the stock, with where the steel shim is epoxied, it does not contact that cutout in the stock anywhere around the sides of it, but only on the bottom side of it. See, so that's your contact point, but if you were to look closely, you would see that this receiver really is basically also free floated in the wood. It doesn't really make contact with the wood. It's not supposed to, I don't think. And so really what they got is they got your as I've explained in one of my other videos, you've got your contact point here in the bottom of the recoil, or on the bottom of the front lug, and then back here, and then you've got your rear screw, and then you got your contact point up here that holds the barrel, which means that this whole thing is like a lever. And of course this front main screw is your fulcrum, and of course this would be your ratio from there to there, and then from there up to the front, you see. So that whole thing is like a lever in the stock. But it's obvious they do not want the barrel to contact the wood on the bottom of the stock or on the handguard itself, you see. And so a lot of times what I've run into over years, because of this rear barrel band here, they kind of, when they're tightened down, it'll warp the handguard and cause it to make contact with the barrel right in this area here, which when you pull the handguard off, if you closely inspect it, you can kind of see where it makes contact there. And so I'll relieve that, which I did on this handguard, as you can see. I did that before. But now I revisited that whole thing with the handguard, and what I noticed is, which I did not notice the first time going through it, up here in the front of the handguard, if you were to pull the handguard off your K31, virtually without exception, you have your bearing surface here, which contacts the barrel. That's the part that holds the barrel tight on the top side. But then there's a kind of a step down there that is relieving the stock, so that past this point it does not contact the barrel. When I looked at this one, I took it back off, I noticed that there was almost no step down from here down to there. And so I relieved it. Of course, on further close inspection, I could see where it was actually still making some contact here, and then there was a section right in here it was making contact with the barrel too, which I don't want. I want the barrel not to be in contact with the wood. So I took, and as you can see, I did a little gentle relieving of this whole thing from here to there. And then when I put it on, the way I check to see if I can see any more contact is, you might be able to see this. What I'll do is I'll just put a thin layer of grease on the top of the barrel like that. And then when I put the handguard back on, if there's still contact, you'll see that grease marking the handguard to tell you that there's contact there. And so that's what I did. I've already done that. I put the handguard back on, and now I've taken it off, and I see no places now that it's obviously will not be contacting the wood on the handguard anymore, which is, I think I missed a couple spots here, from like here to here from before, and another spot a little bit further forward of the rear barrel band. But then I'll show you how I check the clearance of the bottom end of the barrel to the stock. And of course, this is how I check the barrel on the bottom side. Is I'll put a bill in there, some money, and then you should be able to just slide it back under there like that, just to see that there's no contact anywhere else. And I feel nothing there. I feel no contact. So I'm going to call that good, but I am going to take the receiver out of the stock again to look inside, and just to kind of go through that again. But anyways, that's how I deal with the handguard thing. Okay, as you can see, I've got the rifle apart, and there's just a couple things I want to kind of bring your attention to. Is, like, for instance, up here the front, where the front main screw is, the lug, you see that cut out there, and then it's got that steel shim on the bottom of it. And I do believe when the armor is put together, that shim, the thickness of it is checked to provide the proper barrel preload down here at this end of it. But as you can see the imprint of this in that steel shim, which means that has kind of crushed down a little bit. and so hence sometimes that's why I'll go and put a shim in there. But and of course, if you notice that front lug here, it does not contact this cutout around the sides at all. It only contacts it on the bottom. So the only places that this rifle really contacts the wood is at the bottom of this, at this right here. This is your recoil lug in the stock, that face forward facing right surface right there, and then right here where the tang comes over the top, and right there, and that's the other spot that contacts the, but as far as the receiver lane coming in contact with the stock through here, it does not. And then of course down here, and then as I explained before, this front main screw would be, it's like a fulcrum. That's your fulcrum right there, and this is a lever. Okay, and then and so anyways, like I say, I've shimmed them before, and just a little something I can see if you guys see that. You see the little rifle logo on the bottom of the barrel there? That's a SIG logo, which tells me that's a SIG barrel. Sometimes if you see a circled hammer there, it's a Hammerly barrel. Hammerly built a lot of barrels for mil spec K31s, but this is the shims. This is how I do it. This is 5 thousandths thick shim, brass shim, which is soft metal, and I make one like this. I make it so it's basically like a cup. See, so it fits over that that front lug, and then of course, if I needed to, which I tried, I've made 2 more, which then at which point you can put them into the cup I made. You see, and that's how I do the shimming. But what I'm going to do now is from one of my previous videos where it shot well when I had the brass shim underneath the scope mount. It one shot well, and I only had one shim under the front lug. So I think I'm going to take the other 2 out for good or bad. Like I say, I was going by how much preload I had at the muzzle end of it, but I'm going to leave these guys out for now. But what I think I may end up doing is, which might be take some time at the range if necessary, I may take the rifle apart at the range, depending on the results, and swap out the shims, maybe add or take them out, just depending on what happens, which might prove interesting. And another little something I want to bring to your attention, this is the front screw, main screw. And I've had a number of K31s in the past where when you take the screw out, it appears like it wants to wobble. And at first I thought maybe the screw was not manufactured properly or something, which doesn't make any sense considering it's Swiss. But what I came to realize after some time with one that I actually took out and was actually sheared off right here. And if you take your front main screw loose and if it wobbles, that is the result, I believe, of the recoil and this front main screw not being tight. And over time, I think it will distort that screw. And like I say, I even had one to the point where when I took it out, it actually came out in 2 pieces. So at any rate, just something you might want to take a look at in any K31s you guys have. All right, guys, this is what I'm doing. I'm checking the preload on the barrel again. If you look right there where it starts to pull loose, and that shows, I don't know, 20 ounce, which is, and that's with 3 5 thousandths shims under the front lug, which is about what I had when I put them in, when I checked it at. I just, because there was a lot of preload on that barrel without any shims in it. But nevertheless, like I say, I think I might go back to the starting point again and maybe put this thing under the gun, no pun intended, with the scope on it and no shims in the stock with a heavy preload on the barrel and the stock. Maybe that's what it's going to take. I don't know, but in all the ones I've done in the past, I always like to see that preload basically very light, maybe, like I say, maybe a pound even. But at any rate, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull it out of the stock and maybe put it back with no shims in it and try that first and go from there. Okay guys, and if you remember when I first took the handguard off and I had 3 of those brass shims under the front lug, we were at about 16, somewhere between 16 and 20 ounce of pull to make that separate from the stock. And I'm seeing it about right there. And if you look, we're at about 40 ounce now. So taking 10 thousandths out of the shims underneath the front lug, increased the preload at the barrel here on the stock. It basically doubled it. So just a little something, little FYI. Okay, and another little check that I'm going to make on it here because I'm able to. I normally don't do this. But this is a piece of GP11 ammunition put down into the muzzle of my other private series K31, which basically has a like new barrel on it. And so I just figured out of curiosity, I want to see how it compares to my scoped K31, which has extensive use on it. Alright guys, I know you're probably going to find my measurement method very bizarre, but this is what I did. I leveled the barrel. I put my level on it like that. And then I stuck my bullet in there. And of course I can't do this all and hold the camera at the same time, so I'm just going to explain to you what I did. And then I put the level on top of the bullet and held it so it was... So then I put the bullet in and held the level so that it was level 2. And then I measured the difference, the distance between the top of the muzzle crown and the bottom edge of that level. Right? And the reading I came up with on that one is 2-inch 277, 2-inch 277. Let's try the other rifle, see if it makes any difference. What the hell? Alright guys, and so now what I did is using the same method. This is my other K31 with the like new barrel. And we have come up with 2-inch 243. We're looking, there's about, what is that, 30 thousandths difference? 30 thousandths difference. I don't know, is that a bit? It's a pretty sloppy way of checking that, but I don't know, I would say there's some difference in it, so I don't know, we'll just something, little curiosity made me want to look at that, see if there's any difference. Okay.